Let's go back in time 249 years ago, and a small group of men, 5 of them were asked by the Second Congress. There were 56 people in the Second Congress, representing 13 colonies. And they asked these 5 to go ahead and write down what they thought of the king, the good king that was there in England, that was raising as a tyrannist against the poor colonies. They'd been fighting for a little while over their right to be where they were in the New World. Thomas Jefferson wrote most of the first draft. He had a way with words. And this visionary statement that he created then was brought forward, and they reviewed it, made some changes. And on July 4th, 1776, they signed it, 56 members of the Second Congress. And that was an act of treason against the king to sign that. So they were risking their lives. They were standing together. And by standing together in their power, they knew they could not be opposed. This guy, several thousand miles away, and at the time the fastest ship could take 3 months to come from the east to the new shore. So you send a letter and ask for it to come back, it could take a little while, right? So it took a little while for the news that the colonies had declared themselves independent and free from the king. So they were heroes at the time, and their integrity was a symbol. They were leaders. They risked everything for freedom and the ability to be independent, because that's what they had come, and many of them had come to the United States, although it wasn't called the United States yet. They called it the United Colonies. And some of the early lines from the Declaration, if you haven't read it lately, they're really still very powerful today. So they said, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed." So the governed have to continuously say, yeah, I want to play this game. And they have to support the government. And this was one of their big beefs with the big guy back in England, because he wasn't listening. So they sought liberty from this oppressive tyrant, this monarch. And they list some of the things that they didn't care for. It's a long list, but I'll just share a few, because we can relate to them today. So among them, he was cutting off our trade with all parts of the world. Of course, they blockaded it with ships so that trade couldn't get in and out. Imposed taxes without our consent. So the famous taxation without representation. They deprived us, in many cases, of the benefits of trial by jury. Instead, there were summary judgments and summary executions. And then they transported us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses. So if they didn't like it, they just hauled you off in chains and pretended to have a trial in some distant land where you couldn't be represented, where your friends weren't around to support you. And for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of government. So it sounds like a pretty bad deal, so no wonder they had banded together to say, enough. Remember that movie, I've had enough? So they had been fighting, but they had to put it down in words because they were hoping that the rest of the world would listen to these words, these powerful words that they had put down, and come to their rescue, come to their aid, come to their support, so that they wouldn't feel alone, because at the time, Britain was the power on the earth. if you remember, they were saying that the sun never sets on Britain at that time because they had colonies throughout the globe. They were a force to be reckoned with. They went on to say that we, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, so they already called it the United States, in this General Congress assembled, appeal to the supreme judge of the world. They knew that it was above a monarch. It was above any single person. And they declared that these united colonies are and ought to be free and independent, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and do all the other acts and things which independent states may of right do. Pretty powerful. Those words are powerful today. And of course, as we know in history, many groups went ahead and revolted following the United States colonies revolting from the crown. And that was actually the beginning of the end of the British Empire, as they then knew it. They didn't realize it yet, but it was going to start coming apart. Because of their act of courage, because of their standing together. And you might say, well, what does this have to do with science of mind? Well, remember, they wrote these words. And what do we say about words? Words are things and they have power. In fact, we just heard a great quote from Diane, which I'm going to repeat a little while later because it's so important for us to remember. Now, of course, we say that words are great, but what do you have to do in addition to the words? You have to act. You have to move your feet. You have to do your part. So those founders knew that the Declaration of Independence was just the beginning. They had to go on and create a constitution, and they had to do amendments because the first time they tried it, they forgot a few things. And you'll know in the opening it says that all men are created equal. Well, of course, they were a little bit blindsided, right? Because they thought men at the time meant landed, educated, titled men. So that left out basically everyone else. But the 13th, 14th, 15th, and 19th Amendment added the ability to have slaves, former slaves, naturalized citizens, and the women. Right? And that was, 150 years later that it took? A long time. So we can remember that women, too, fought over and over and over again for the suffrage and the freedom and the power just to be able to vote. In some places, it wasn't until the 70s, 1970s, that a woman could have her own bank account and her own credit card. So we take a lot for granted. So one of the things that I'm reminded of, especially when we do this little light of mine, is that in Matthew 5:14 it says, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden." And it goes on to say, would you hide that light under a bushel? Well, heck no. Because if you're going to light the town, if you're going to show off what you are and what you stand for, you got to keep that light up. So we have to keep our lights up so that we can shine to allow others around us to shine. So the hill on which the USA is built was promised due process, a rule of law, courts leading to freedoms that are still unmatched in the world today at large. And guess what? We just take it for granted. Oftentimes, I'm not saying always, but we forget that our freedoms can be taken away. And this culminated in the signing of the Second Congress. It inspired many writings and words since then. It was finally fully ratified in August So I expect next year there's going to be a big party. For me, I take the whole month of July. So starting July 1st, I know it's already, July 1st, it's already coming. And imagine my surprise when I find out that the fireworks were not for me. But I still love them. And we used to, as kids, anyone remember pop bottle rockets? So we'd take a pole, a copper pipe, and light them on with, and then you could aim them. So we did battle. You'd buy a gross of pop bottle rockets, 144 of them, right? And so if you have 10 or so people with 144 rockets, you can tell that you have a lot of challenge. We only started a fire once. So I was in the newspaper for the wrong reason. A teenager starts fire. They gave me a lecture. But imagine the freedoms that we were taking for granted as kids. We just thought it was great fun, right? We weren't really schooled that much in what's this all about. But in Science of Mind, we teach that words are things and that they have power, and they can precede any manifestation of anything we want. We have to be careful, though, about our words, because oftentimes we use them carelessly or unconsciously. And when we're doing that, we're actually praying. Everything we do, everything we think, every word we speak is a prayer. So as we pray with our lives, we say, what am I praying for? If I pray at random and I say, well, I wonder why my life is not changing at all. Well, of course, because Brownian motion says that on average, you'll just stay right where you are. But if you want something, then you have to put words out there of what you want. What is your vision? What are you needing? What freedom are you seeking? So one of the things that we teach, some of the tools we teach is, well, how do you do that? How do you create words that help you get where you want to be? Because sometimes, with my little mind, I'll think, well, I want this. But it might not be in alignment with what Spirit or God or whatever word you want to use, what is the highest and best for me. Instead, it's just a short-term thing, and I'll soon get over it. And where does it lead me? Not much further than I already was. So how do you do it? Well, this morning we had a great soft belly meditation to allow us to become conscious, to be aware of this moment. And when I get quiet, then all the buzz and the noise of the world settles down, and I can start to hear that still small voice that is the God within me, that is the power and the presence that is always with me, but oftentimes I can't hear it. Or I hear it and I say, I'm not sure if I want that. I'm going to go the other way. But if I listen, and I listen carefully, and I keep track of it, over time it's kind of telling me a direction. And so then I can choose that and say, oh, maybe this is a direction that I want to go. This is something that I want to build upon. This is something that I want to be free from. And there's all sorts of things that we can ask for freedom. Maybe it's freedom from pain. Maybe it's freedom to enjoy our bodies and be healthy again. Maybe it's the freedom to be free of a relationship that's not working. Or being free of your own self-denigrating mind that can come along and say, oh, you can't do that. No, don't do that. What will others think? Who cares what other people think? If it's what you want to do, you need to go forward and do it. As long as you're not harming other people. Do no harm. The reason that in most philosophies there is this very simple maxim, and everyone knows it, right? Do unto others as you would have it done unto you. If you follow that and you're following your path, nothing can stop you. You can do, be, or have anything you want. But you have to decide. You have to make a point of it. You have to tell the universe what you want. Now, don't go out and broadcast it to the friends that go, oh, I don't know. That's pretty scary. That's going to not work so well. Don't talk to them. Go talk to the people that are your cheerleaders. Go talk to your mentor, your practitioner, the friend that says, yeah, that sounds like fun. What can I do to support you? That's the place that we want to go. So we can take a moment right now and have an interactive session where we can say, what is it you want freedom from? Where do you want to regain your independence? Where do you want to shine your light so that you can start walking down the path? Creating your next chapter, writing a new book. Whatever you want, start now. So you could close your eyes, or you could just quietly say, yeah, what do I want? What am I yearning for? What's calling me today? Write it down in your bulletin. What do you want? What does it feel like when you have it? How does it feel in your body when you are free, finally free from that thing that has been holding you stuck in place? You're free. That feels great. Write it down. Come back and visit it. Maybe it's a freedom to pursue that next adventure. Feel the energy of what it feels like to be independent and free to pursue your dream. Feels pretty good. So what can you do to find that highest vision, that highest life that's meant for you? There's another tool we use called visioning. It's 5 easy steps. What is Spirit's highest vision for my fill in the blank? What do I need to release and let go of so that that highest vision can manifest? What do I need to embrace wholeheartedly so that that vision can be mine now? And is there anything else that Spirit or God wants to tell me in this moment that will help bring that highest vision to life? And we listen. And it might come in colors, a song, words, a vision, or might not come anything at all the first time. But you repeat that along with meditation and prayer, and the work works if you work it. So if you need to write it down, if you need to come back to it, I'm a writer, so I put things down. I don't always get it in that week or that month, but I find when I write things down, within the next year or so, gee, all those things that I talked about, they're coming about. Now, of course, when I plant seeds, they grow. So also about halfway through the year, which is now, I have to kind of prune the garden, come along and pull out some of the weeds that I didn't realize I was planting, and let the ones that are the real visions come to life. And like our early framers, we have to ask, what is my part? What is my next step? For them, it was the Constitution. But for us, perhaps it's writing down what we want, saying a little bit about how it's going to feel, noticing what it feels like as you write it, finding that first next step. And don't worry if a door shuts, because there's another door that's going to open that leads you to where you want to go. Watch for the open doors. Rumi said, I have been knocking on the lip of insanity. I've been knocking on doors trying to get in. Turns out the door opened out. So from inside to out, that is where our spirit is. That's where our knowledge is. So we can take advantage of it. So Ernest Holmes said the story that Diane's already shared, but I'm going to repeat it. Because we have within us all the time, right here, right now, every time, every when, a power that is greater than anything we shall ever contact in the outer. A power that can overcome any obstacle in our life and set us safe, satisfied, and at peace, healed and prosperous, in a new light, in a new life. That's from his book, Creative Living. It's one of those great little tiny books that he does, versus The Science of Mind, which can be daunting. But he mentions light, he mentions peace, he mentions the joy. That's what we're seeking. Shine our light, head towards our peace, head towards our freedom, and we can overcome any obstacle. That's a great message. I'll buy it. And then Ernest Holmes said, this is new thought, but it's ancient wisdom. Because in Psalms 119 it says, thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. It shows me the way wherein I should go both night and day. And it was so powerful that it was repeated again in Proverbs. So, in a sense, our inner desires are our light. We are our own lamp. What a great thing, because that means we can do something about it. So I want to just conclude with a reminder from Mary Oliver. Anyone know Mary Oliver, poet? Pulitzer Prize winner. But she was not so sure. Sometimes it's difficult to know about prayer. She says, I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Tell me, what is your plan to do with your one wild and precious life? So if you take nothing away from this except finding what is your want for your wild and precious life, then we've had success today. So let's take that into prayer. Because I know there is one power, there's one presence, there's one perfect love that is so powerful that it can remove any obstacles in our lives. It can help to free us from any pain, from any hardship, from anything that's holding us back. We can have our independence, we can have the peace of life, and we can be the light to the world. And since God is everywhere and everywhen, then it's right here, right now with me and with you right where you are. That means it's a power you can use. And so I know that that power can help guide and direct, nudge along towards that greater freedom, that power that is your life, that is the chapter that you're writing right now. So I'm grateful for this teaching. I'm grateful for this opportunity to speak and to learn from the powerful history where we know that freedom is ours to have. So I just send these words into the action of love and law, knowing that it's already done in the mind of God. And we can affirm that by saying together, and so it is. Please join.